Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and it is that time of the year again. Nickelodeon has released their Upfront for 2016. There's a lot of interesting information here, so let's get started. First and foremost, SpongeBob was renewed for seasons 10 and 11. The only real surprise here is that they didn't renew the show up to season 28 or something ridiculous like that. Also, Harvey Beaks got renewed for a second season. I still haven't gotten around to watching that show, but from the way a lot of you guys describe it, this sounds like a very good thing. Also, Pig Goat Banana Cricket got a second season. Nick has quite a few new animated shows coming up. Firstly, there's The Loud House, which was picked up for 26 episodes, and it's about a boy who lives in a giant household full of sisters. It's created by Chris Savino, who worked on Rocko's Modern Life and the Powerpuff Girls. This series started out as an animated short, which is available to view online. There's also been a sneak peek from Comic-Con. I have to say the show looks, at the very least, okay. I'm not entirely crazy about the art style they went with. It looks a little bit too stiff and the colors are a little bit too muted for me, but the protagonist seems pretty relatable and down to earth, and I like the premise of one boy living in a house full of girls. The humor of the short didn't seem particularly funny, but it didn't seem unfunny either. Just judging from the short and from the preview, I think that this show will be alright, which isn't bad. The show might surprise me and end up being a lot better than I expected, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a bad show. Between the interesting premise and the creator behind it, I think that this one is definitely worth at least giving a shot. Next up, Bunsen is a Beast. It was picked up for 20 episodes, and it is described as being the story of Bunsen, who is the first beast to attend a human grade school, and his best friend Mikey, who guides Bunsen through the ups and downs of life as a human. There really isn't much known about this except for one key detail. The series is created by Butch Hartman. What does this mean? Honestly, it could mean one of a few things. The show could be great, interesting, and funny, like early Fairly Odd Parents. It could be a slightly more dramatic and action-filled, really entertaining show like Danny Phantom. It could be an okay show that kinda treads on a lot of the same areas as other shows in the same genre has done, like Tough Puppy, or it could be creatively stuck in a rut like the newer Fairly Odd Parents episodes. I like Butch's work, and he has turned out some great stuff in the past, but I am a little bit afraid of him getting caught in the same trap that other creators like Dan Schneider do, where they just kinda keep hitting the same points over and over in their careers and don't really have anything new to bring to the table. For one thing, I'm getting sick of the same sound effects that are heard in all of his shows repeatedly. I don't know. Hopefully this will be a fresh start for him and be something completely distinct from the shows that came before it, but I'm not entirely sure how likely that is. Then there's Mysticons, picked up for 40 episodes. It is a half-hour action series about 4 girls who transform into legendary warriors and band together to save their realm from an evil queen, Necrafa. It's a show made by Nelvana, and that's pretty much all I know about it. Next up is Welcome to the Wane, which was picked up for 20 episodes. So this series is based off of a mini-series that has aired on Nick.com, and it is about two 10-year-old boys exploring the crazy world of their New York City apartment building, The Wane. I saw the mini-series, and I'm actually pretty impressed. The show has action, it has a little bit of mystery, and it runs in a world built on fun. There's a lot of crazy inventions, there's creatures, there's spies, there's all sorts of wacky stuff going on, and it feels like a world where anything can happen. And of course, the show has a great setting, that is this giant apartment building with all sorts of secret passageways and colorful residents. It reminded me a little bit of Kids Next Door. And because this was a mini-series, I feel like I really did get a good grasp on what the series proper is going to be like. And you can check it out right now if you're interested. There'll be a link in the description. Also of note is the fact that the protagonist is a little bit of a neat freak. He uses hand sanitizer and he doesn't like people touching his stuff. I only point this out because it's kind of rare to see a Nick protagonist be like this. Usually characters who are a little bit uptight and like to keep to themselves are reserved for antagonists and villains in a lot of these Nick shows. And that's because they're the antithesis of what the average Nick protagonists are these days, where they're usually loud and obnoxious and in your face and like to invade people's personal space. And speaking of which, if there's one negative thing I have to say about Welcome to the Wane, it's that it does contain a little bit of those Nickelodeonisms in the second most important character, Ollie. He's loud, he makes gross out jokes, and he can be a bit slow. It's not horrible, but considering there's been a lot of Nickelodeon shows with characters like this, I can't really say that it's necessarily a good thing. But I can say that it is not in any way the main focus of the show. There's a lot of other great stuff in here, and if the show is anything like the miniseries, I think we're going to be looking at a pretty good show that's very different from most of the stuff seen on Nickelodeon right now. And lastly, there's Pinky Malinky, which was picked up for 20 episodes and is a mockumentary series which follows the everyday life of Pinky Malinky, an infectiously positive hot dog living in a human world. Pinky's experiences will be shared across social media and Nick's digital platforms, which I guess means that Nick is going to spam these shorts everywhere. Anyway, this one is also based on a short, and interestingly enough, it was a Cartoon Network short. Now, why did Cartoon Network pass this one up and Nickelodeon decide to take it in? Well, if I had to take a guess, it's because this looks, well, based on the short, it reminds me of Pickle and Peanut. And I think that just about says it all. It's loud, it's in your face, it's very ugly and unappealing. There isn't anything funny about it or entertaining. It's not something I enjoyed watching at all, and it's not the kind of cartoon that I enjoy. And I'm sure there is an audience for it out there, but I know there's also a lot of you guys that feel the same way that I do and just do not like this style of cartoon. There seems to be no subtlety or thought put into anything here. It's just a very in-your-face cartoon. And granted, this is just judging from the short, so it is entirely possible that the regular series will be different. Though I think pretty much everything about the short is entirely wrong, so odds are this series is going to be very annoying, and I'm terribly afraid it's going to be the next Pickle and Peanut, or Breadwinners. So on the live action side of things, Nickelodeon mentioned that Henry Danger and Game Shakers are both giant hits, and both were renewed for another season. Yay! Also, the Thundermans is still going on. In terms of new series, there's quite a few, and most of these don't have much information here, so we'll be going through them pretty fast. They ordered 2 sports shows. Jagger Eaton's Mega Life, which is a working title because that kind of sounds awkward. It was picked up for 20 episodes, and it is an action-packed docu-series about 15-year-old skateboarder Jagger Eaton as he skates the world and hangs out with his idols. The show hasn't started filming yet, so yeah, there's nothing here that I can say, other than the fact that I looked up this Jagger Eaton kid, and he was one of the youngest X Games competitors, and is really good at skateboarding, and has been skateboarding since a very young age. So he looks like he'd be at least a pretty good host for this sort of thing, considering he is genuinely a kid and has been doing this stuff since he was very young. Then there's Crashleets, which is hosted by New England Patriots Super Bowl winner and Pro Bowl tight end Rob Gronkowski. It's been ordered for 20 episodes and is a viral sports clip series featuring guest personalities from sports, and it's about the funniest, craziest clips and user-generated content. Sounds like just a wacky, funny sports highlight clip show. I'm not really a sports person, so I can't tell you if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it does feel like something you could get on ESPN or another sports network, or even just through watching sports highlights on YouTube. Then there is Ride, which is being produced by Buccaneer Media, which is located in the United Kingdom. It has been picked up for 20 episodes, and it follows the adventures of Catherine Kit Bridges, who relocates to England with her dad, who is joining the faculty at Covington Academy, an elite equestrian boarding school. I don't really have much of anything to say about this. There's very little known at the moment, so I'm going to move on. Next up is The Other Kingdom, which was picked up for 20 episodes, and it follows fairy princess Astral, who takes human form and enters the mortal world for 90 days. Again, I don't really have much to say about this, but it does seem like Nickelodeon is definitely going for a female demographic with shows like this, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. Depends on if they're just trying to pander to the lowest common denominator, or if they're actually interested in telling good stories with things that just happen to appeal to girls. So then they mention School of Rock, which was announced last year but now has a few clips and a little bit more information. It's been picked up for 12 episodes and is about a group of rule-abiding students who learn to take risks and reach new heights thanks to their substitute teacher, a down-on-his-luck musician who uses the language of rock and roll to inspire his class to form a secret band. Yeah, we know, we've all seen the movie. Anyway, now that there are some clips out about this, I have to say that the show looks pretty much exactly like a Dan Schneider show, except with a lot more musical interludes. It seems to have the same kind of acting, the same laugh track, the same corny situations, but the fact that they can pad this stuff out with music numbers means that they might try even less in terms of plot. Maybe it'll be better than the typical Dan Schneider show, but nothing I've seen so far indicates that. Moving right along, next is All In with Cam Newton, which was formally announced as I Wanna Be. This was picked up for 20 episodes and is hosted by Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton, and it takes real kids on the ride of their lives to help them make their dreams come true. Which sounds incredibly vague. This kinda seems like a throwaway series. It doesn't sound like a terrible idea, just not one that's gonna make it past one season. And then we come to The Dudas, which is a working title because I really hope they're not going with The Dudas. This one was only picked up for 6 episodes, and it follows brothers Sam and Tyler Duda, polar opposites whose worlds are turned upside down after Sam skips a grade and joins his brother in 7th grade homeroom. The only thing I have here is that synopsis, and I have to tell you, it comes off as incredibly bland. Maybe they have some interesting twist here, but they really probably should have included something else in this description here to get people excited, because just saying, we have a show about 2 polar opposite brothers is not anything new. The show could be good or it could be bad, but Nick's not really giving a good first impression here. And I really have to scratch my head at the whole 6 episodes thing. It doesn't exactly sound like a really high concept show. Like, I could understand picking up 6 episodes for something that was really expensive to make or something that was really unusual and a big risk, but something like this, I don't know, maybe there's something they're not telling us here. There's The Ludwigs, which follows the adventures of 5 foster children who are on a quest to find out what happened to their foster parents after they mysteriously disappear. Filled with comedy, mystery, and adventure, the kids must keep up appearances that everything's fine at home and fend off the Ludwigs' greedy and duplicitous heirs. They're also making a Dutch version of this. Once again, there really isn't much to go on here, although I have to say the premise sounds at least mildly interesting. I could see something cool being made of this, but then again, it all depends on the execution with this sort of thing. It does depend on the strength of the acting of the actors and the writing and the directing and all this sort of stuff, and I'm just not sure Nickelodeon has the chops to pull off something like this. But then again, it's being made by Nickelodeon Netherlands, so maybe they know more of what they're doing than the American branch. And lastly, there's I Am Frankie, which is another working title. It was picked up for 20 episodes, and it follows the comedic and dramatic adventures of teenager Frankie, who has a big secret. She's actually an experimental android who must hide her true identity or risk being powered down forever. This is produced by the same people who made Every Which Way and Talia in the Kitchen, and I Am Frankie itself is actually based off of an already existing Latin American show, Yo Soy Frankie. I wonder what that means. I actually took the time to sit and watch a few episodes of Talia in the Kitchen, and I have to say that the series is exactly what I expected. It is a soap opera. It's got hokey acting, it's got some weird and cheesy plot points, and the whole thing comes off as incredibly awkward and unhuman-like. But hey, that's soap operas for you. I'm not really knocking it too much because honestly, soap operas just aren't my thing, and I don't even really know how I would critique a soap opera. My point is just that it's gonna be more of the same most likely, and if you liked Every Which Way and Talia in the Kitchen, then you're probably gonna like I Am Frankie. I wonder if this whole soap opera on Nickelodeon trend came about when Nick saw how many teen and tween-age girls really wanted there to be a lot of shipping in iCarly. But that's a thought for another time. Right now we have to talk about the TV movies. So, first up, there is Lost in the West, which is a 3-part original TV movie that follows 2 teenage stepbrothers, Chip and Dave, who get transported back in time to 1885 after one of them accidentally invents a time machine. They soon become entangled in a crazy Wild West adventure as they fight off evil outlaws, avoid changing the future, and try to make it back to the present. If this sounds familiar, it's because it shares a lot of similarities with Back to the Future Part 3. If I had to guess, it's probably gonna be about as hokey as all of Nick's TV movies are. Although I find it intriguing that it's a trilogy of TV movies instead of just one. But that's about all I have to say. Then there's Albert, Nickelodeon's first original animated TV movie. Now, at first, that statement doesn't actually seem right, but when you think about it, every single one of Nick's TV movies are either A, based on an animated show or a live action show, or B, just a live action standalone movie. They've never actually done a cartoon standalone TV movie. At least not one that Nick's made in-house. Anyway, it's the story of a tiny Douglas fir tree named Albert who loves Christmas more than anyone, but whose miniature size has kept him inside the plant nursery year after year. Joined by his two best friends, a fun-loving palm tree and a rambunctious weed, Albert treks across the country to live his dream of becoming the world's most famous Christmas tree. So this story sounds, well, it sounds like a Christmas story. Remember All of the Other Reindeer? Kinda sounds like that. I don't know. It could end up being something interesting, but it's probably not going to be something that's going to become a yearly tradition. But hey, it's possible. So now we're getting into some really interesting stuff. The Hey Arnold Jungle movie is officially 110% actually going to happen, and it's going to be a two-part animated TV movie. This has been teased for a long time, and I think it was officially revealed a few months ago, but it's still nice to see some more official confirmation of this. It's going to pick up right where the original series ended and resolve unanswered questions and plot lines, including Arnold finally getting answers about the whereabouts of his missing parents. So if you don't know Hey Arnold, the series pretty much ended on a giant cliffhanger with Arnold, who has been living with his grandparents, finally discovering where his parents have been and what they've been up to, and it ends with him finding a map to basically go hunt them down because they've been missing in the jungle for many years. The creator, Craig, always wanted to tell this story, but never got a chance to, and so it's great to see that they're doing this. I'm very happy that it's just going to be a two-part TV movie and not a reboot of the series. I think that the show is great where it is, and I think that it's going to be great to finally get some resolution of a few plot lines, but it's not something that we need back on a weekly basis. We don't need updated Hey Arnold. It's hopefully just going to be a really nice treat from the original creator. A nice trip down memory lane without overstaying its welcome. I'm very excited for this. And lastly, and most surprisingly, Legends of the Hidden Temple is getting its own TV movie. The TV movie is going to follow three siblings who find themselves immersed in a real-life mission that they must complete in order to escape alive. So, the cynical part of me says that this is probably going to have very little to do with Legends of the Hidden Temple, seeing as that was a game show and this is supposed to be a movie that is not about a game show. I mean, sure, they'll probably have Olmec in it, and it's probably going to be somewhat like the challenges that they did on that show. And yeah, there's going to be a dungeon they're going to have to escape, but does that really have so much to do with the game show? And is the original audience for the game show even going to care that this is a thing? Okay, probably a lot of people will because they remember the name Legends of the Hidden Temple, and they might want to tune in just because of the sheer ridiculousness of making a TV movie based upon a game show from like 25 years ago. But yeah, the cynical part of me says that that's exactly why they're doing this, not because they think they have a good story to tell or anything, just because they think they can cash in on nostalgia. I don't know, maybe it would be a good TV movie, but I am very skeptical that it's going to have that much to do with Legends of the Hidden Temple, and even if it does, is it going to be a good movie? And that's the 2016 Nick Upfront. I think it is a lot better than 2015, and I think we're seeing a lot more original material here. Sure, one of their new animated series is based off of a mini-series, and another one is going to be by Butch Hartman, who has made quite a few of these shows before, but hey, there's no shows here based on the internet, and there's no spin-offs of movies, aside from School of Rock. So yeah, looks like there's going to be a lot of original content coming, and a lot of it looks like it's going to be different from what Nickelodeon has done in the past, at least in terms of its animation. There's links to a lot of the stuff I mentioned in the video in the description. Check them out for yourselves and let me know what you think. PIEGUYRULZ